Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast and Twitch.tv/Rogue Wave Podcast. Download the podcast itself immediately following the live stream on all major podcasting apps. Search Rogue Wave Podcast. That's Wave, W-A-V. Or go to roguewavepodcast.com to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Tonight, Warrior Nun creator Simon Barry drops by to review Season 1 with us and talk to us about that cliffhanger. We celebrate the X-Men 20th anniversary and more homemade comics from when you were a kid. I am your host, Michael Dolce, joined as always by my co-host extraordinaire, Mr. Hassan Godwin, Lord of the live stream. How you doing, sir?
Another crazy Wednesday. It's been a crazy week. Without getting into any details, it's been a crazy week.
Yeah, no, it's been good. I have been drawing. I'm gonna show. Look at this page right here. Ooh, that's the preview for everybody.
Straighten that out a little bit. That's a tease, right? You're mystery boxing it. Yes. Oh, all right, there it is. Yeah. Little lower.
Oh, the microphone's in the way.
There you go. Okay.
Been drawing.
Very nice.
Got another page on the drawing table over there, which is exciting. I have also been rereading a lot. I've been rereading.
Oh, you're reading. What are you reading?
Peter David's run on X Factor.
Oh, wow. A little light reading then, right?
Awesome.
Humor.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. and it's inspired this other project that I'm doing for another company. That's we can't really talk about it yet until the 31st. We were going to talk about it, but then they delayed the launch of their company, so we can't actually talk about it until
these things happen
till the end of the month. But yeah, no, it's been really good. And I discovered this has been a great week for me actually. I discovered that comics that were once unattainable for me as a youth because of the price. I realized I'm an older dude now and I can afford things. But B, I went on the internet to locate said comics. So we're talking Uncanny X-Men 267, 268. We're talking about the first appearance of Gambit, technically the second appearance of Gambit.
Yeah,
the issue where Wolverine meets Captain America in the 40s, I guess, or something, and Black Widow's in it. Like these iconic Jim Lee comics that I used to look up on the wall of Wizard Cards and Comics back in 92, something like that.
Yeah,
and they would $80,
out of reach.
$100, like $200. I mean, these were really crazy comics. I got 267 for $12. I got 268 for $20.
Where did you get these? So with
Amazon, baby, just living the quarantine life.
Oh, these are reprints, though. Are these?
No, the original comics.
Why are they so cheap on Amazon?
Because
the
market's
busted
anymore. Like they're not. Yeah. I don't know.
Everybody's getting everything digitally.
Yeah, I can't. All I can tell you is I can reap the reward. I also picked up the run of X Factor that Will Spartasio did with Claremont and Lee plotting and scripting. So it was the issues leading up to the revamp of X Factor. So I have filled in my collection, which is pretty awesome. And I've also done it on the cheap, which is also pretty awesome. The total came to something like $120 or something because I bought all these issues.
Yeah, because you overdid it. You splurged.
With the shipping. Well, with the shipping itself was like $30 or something like that for all this, combined, right? But in the end, I'm sitting there going like, I'm a man. I can afford these things. Like, I work for a living and I run my businesses and now I can afford things as opposed to when you're 12 years old and you're just saving up allowance money and you got to sit there and go, okay, is this worth the new Super Nintendo game or is this worth more? You really
every time I ever did that and saved up my money, by the time it came to I had enough money to go get the thing, I always talked myself out of getting it because having the money was better. So and then I'd end up spending that money on something else and then want that thing again and then have to start the cycle all over again.
Yeah.
So it was. I don't think I ever really wanted anything but money. It turns out, at the end of the day, it was like, no, you know what? The money's better. I just like having money.
I'm getting older, and I'm kind of realizing, I'm like, why am I withholding myself? Like, just life's pleasures, like rereading these old X-Men comics have actually been a joy. It rekindled my love for comics again, and for drawing, and it gives me the same excitement. And I'm sitting there like, why am I holding back?
I recently
reread
understand.
this. See this one? Yeah.
Oh.
For anybody who is listening to us on the podcast, my screen just changed to the gatefold cover to X-Force #1. New podcast coming in the next couple of weeks with Victor Dandridge and I. It's called Wednesday Forever. Our first episode features Fabian Nicieza breaking down X-Force #1. It is, but again, delight to reread X Factor #1. I reread it, and I was like, X-Force #1, and I'm like,
X-Force.
like, I'm 14 years old and I want to draw. Like,
it is important to dive back into comic books, especially when you're going to sit down and try to pencil one. Like start the penciling adventure all over again.
Yeah,
it is nice.
Don't give out life's pleasures, people. Just enjoy it. Life is.
I keep trying. I ordered a couple of books, like these nostalgia books, like actual novels from like particular box sets that you can't get anymore off of eBay. And then every time they come, because of this quarantine situation, the postman won't deliver them. So they will get all the way to my door, and then the postman will send them back to the sender. It's happened like literally like 3 times. It's I can't even get my.
You can't leave your apartment too. I know, because.
Huh? Well, if I would. Yeah, no, let's not do that. I would go get them.
I wasn't actually being sarcastic there.
I have absolutely no issue to go get them.
That is a superpower that I have, is that people cannot tell when I'm being sarcastic and when I'm being serious, because they're the exact same voice. That's why I'm so good at being sarcastic also.
I would call it something else, but that's language we don't want to use. But the point is, when they send it back, they don't even give you a prompt. Like, you can come pick this up. They just said, no, we sent this back. Nothing you can do about it. Talk to your sender. Get them to send it some other way, because USPS, we don't give a shit. We're not giving you anything. We're not coming into your house. That accent
is your superpower. All right, speaking of the quarantine, let's get into it. This is our Rogue Rage, all the rage in the pop culture world. August release for Christopher Nolan's Tenet.
I am all about rage right now. I'm the whole.
Hey, I tend to do that to you.
What's the first item?
August release for Christopher Nolan's Tenet, looking unlikely. Although fans are excited to finally see Christopher Nolan's Tenet in August, it seems unlikely the film will release next month. According to a new report, the film was originally slated to hit July 17th before being pushed to July 31st, and now August 12th. This is, according to Eric Handler,
sorry for this movie. I feel sorry for that movie.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think it's going to be able to live up to the hype now that it's been delayed. It's not going to be able to stand on its own merits as a film, because it's becoming this holy grail of movie experience that nobody's going to be able to get to.
Yeah, so this guy, Eric Handler from MKM Partners, his prediction is we won't be seeing any theater reopen until September, unless it's a drive-in, obviously. Which would mean Tenet would have nowhere to debut, bringing about yet another delay. Obviously, no studio wants to risk delivering a summer blockbuster while the cases continue to increase. For now, we'll wait and see if Warner Brothers chooses to delay Tenet again. But it's true. I mean, if the theaters... So this is a funny part, right? Like, and this is my question to you, and this is the only question I have for this story. Movies and TV shows are starting to shoot again because they're on location in safer places, etc. Yada yada yada.
Yeah, mostly like overseas and stuff.
Yeah, like overseas and things like that, like the UK. I mean, obviously overseas got hit before the United States anyway, so this was going to happen regardless.
Right.
But now,
and we need content. As dumb as that statement is, because of the content we still have that we haven't watched, we're going to run out of content, and then things are going to get really ugly.
But this is the thing. So production has started, but on movies, if these movies have no place to be seen in a tangible sense, where are we going to be? At what point do the studios say, like, look, we love you, movie theaters, but we got to do something here to make money, right? Like, what's the give or take? Do you think that's going to happen? Like, at what point? What's the over under? I don't know. Like, is Tenet going to be in? Are you? Let me make it even simpler for you. Will we see Tenet in a movie theater, or will we see it on our home screens?
Do you mean you and I, or just in general, like the populace?
Well, the populace. I mean the populace. I meant like the you know.
I think it'll come out in the movie theater. I think they're going to be really stubborn about it, and I think it's going to come out in the theater, but it's going to be late. It's going to be way later in the year. Like I think even later than September, maybe. But I do think. I think even if there's a vaccine at the end of the year, I think people are going to be really tentative about bunching up and gathering. I mean, there's going to be obstinate people who are going to want to do it just because, but there's going to be a lot of other people, because that's what's been being reported. Like some restaurants and stuff will open up and people just won't be coming. Yeah. You know?
Well, also, and then, you know, again, not to talk about the actual COVID, but now the CDC is saying maybe indoor is not good no matter what. The history of all pandemics that we've suffered, right? If you just look at the history of pandemics, not to say this is going to follow the same path. It's with us for a good year and a half to 2 years, right? Like 1918 to 1920 was the flu. 68 to 69 was the Hong Kong flu. And again, I'm not comparing anything. I'm just saying in terms of...
No, these are just existing statistics and stuff.
Right.
Like just probability factors.
So at what point do the studios kind of sit there and say, you know, we can't go about not making money for 2 years?
It's the same. It's the same as what happened with a certain magazine and digital. You know, the magazine will not be named, but you know, and going digital and like taking advantage of the broadening of the format. We're not going to talk about the name of the magazine.
I'll do that off air. I'm very intrigued now.
Yeah, but they should have gone digital, or should have at least done some exploits into digital.
Did we work at this magazine?
There is a possibility that we shared some employment, or you know, hovering around there.
Yeah, that magazine's not around anymore. I mean, you can kind of say what you want about it.
Just don't want to. Okay. You know, just trying to be discreet, but you're botching that anyway. But the
you don't have
bottom
to be
line is
to figure out which one you're talking about.
I'm just trying to be subtle, and you're being a dick as usual. But anyway,
Gandalf would approve of your subtlety.
Oh my God. Anyway, the studios. It's what's going to happen is the studios are going to have to. It's just the same as DC with Diamond. Everybody's gonna have to realize that we cannot use one delivery system for this product.
Right.
We have to have multiple. We have to be on multiple platforms. We have to be, you know, we have to have a diversity of delivery for this stuff, so that we could get the maximum amount, because movies aren't getting cheaper to make by any stretch of the imagination, right? So the studios are going to either have to stop making billion-dollar blockbuster movies,
right,
or B, find a better way to ensure delivery, that the people are going to be able to pay for it. People are going to be able to attend and see it. And I don't know what the solution is, because it's very hard, because there's a lot of pirating, especially when things go straight to digital.
I know.
You know, you have pirating and stuff like that. But it's they're going to have to do something, because I don't think movie theaters are going to be viable too much. I don't think we're going to social. I don't think we as a society are going to. It's going to take a little while for us to be as social as we were.
2 years.
You know,
I think could 2 years. And again, I'm just basing it off
decade, 5 years maybe. Many. For us to get back into, like, for things to, there's industries that are not going to come back. The bottom line is we don't know.
I would think 5 years is a little too much, but you could be right. I can't argue. Look, I can't predict the future. If I could predict the future,
you know, worst case scenario,
we wouldn't be doing a million podcast. We would be doing. We'd be really wealthy individuals living on an island.
I don't know what wealth. Yeah, right. With no COVID. No, not the COVID-free island.
That's right. All right. HBO expanding the Batman universe. HBO Max and Matt Reeves, the filmmaker behind the new Batman movie, have teamed up to develop a police drama set in the crime-infested streets of the Cape Crusaders' hometown, Gotham City.
You mean like Gotham?
Right. Terrence Winter, who created the prohibition crime drama Boardwalk Empire and cut his teeth on Sopranos, will write and executive produce the series. and it has a series commitment from HBO Max. Batman producer Dylan Clark and Warner Brothers Television are also involved. And here's the cool wrinkle. The show will operate in the same story universe as Reeves' movie The Batman, and it has Jeffrey Wright playing Commissioner Gordon, which is a fantastic casting. I think Jeffrey Wright is amazing in the show that will not be named, Westworld, which is which I still have not watched the finale.
Neither have I. I half watched it and then stopped.
It has been sitting on my DVR, and I hate it. I just hate it. And I can't even hate watch it. I don't know. There's something about it I can't even hate watch. But yeah. So
we've climbed that mountain.
So
very verbally.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I thought also. Except, here's the thing about streaming services that I think. I can't counter what you just said. Your little Gotham reference, snarky comment, because I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, well, didn't we already have this? There's something about streaming services. There's something about being able to be as uncensored as you want in terms of gore, violence, language, making it as realistic, tying it into the movie universe. TV, for some reason, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a great example, right? I mean, it's supposed to be set in the Marvel Universe, but it's not really. I mean, if you really think about it, it's just not the MCU. It seems to be, but it's not. Because there's not.
I don't even know where that show is anymore. I dropped off so long ago.
Yeah,
so I'm always surprised to see it's still on.
Right. It just never fully connected with the MCU, even though it's Coulson, and Coulson is the center of the MCU. But it just. I guess I can't say that,
because I think they killed him and brought him back.
Well, many times apparently, but I can't say that it didn't try, because Winter Soldier. One of the reasons I don't think Winter Soldier is one of the best movies I've seen. In terms of the MCU, everyone holds that as the number one. I don't think it's a bad movie, and I enjoyed it. Trust me, I enjoyed it heavily. The twist of that movie got ruined because I saw Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before I saw Winter Soldier, and. So the twist of Hydra, I knew coming in. Not that I guess there was a twist, but again, there was some sort of, the way that they bumbled the synergy of the two of those, I think. And that lessened my Winter Soldier experience to what other people have had in terms of Winter Soldier. So a streaming service, because it's so movie-like and is connected so well to the movies, potentially, I think might offer a better version of Gotham. Although I heard good things. Did you watch Gotham?
No, I never got into Gotham, but Gotham was around a long time. I know the premise of Gotham. Yeah. I have friends who thought it was great. They watched it on a regular basis. So, I mean, it just sounds like, and I mean, Gotham was a clever idea, about let's just talk about the streets of Gotham and Commissioner Gordon when he was a young lieutenant, or when he was a sergeant, I think, right? Yeah. And the whole we'll go from the death of the Waynes all the way up to Batman becoming a hero,
right?
And I think that's the premise of it.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we have the origins and the up and coming rogues gallery of Arkham inductees, future Arkham inductees. So. Yeah, I mean, it was a good idea. So now it seems like they're going to do it again. This is the annoying aspect of the DCEU, or whatever they are trying to make that into, because there's no cohesion whatsoever. They're all over the place. They got 3 different Jokers, they got 3 different Batmen. They've got they've got an absentee Superman.
That's what the Flash.
They've got an Aquaman and a Wonder Woman. Those are the 2 things that work so far, in that entire universe. And we can't seem to get any kind of cohesive, thread going through all of those things. And it's And then they have the Arrowverse on television, which is completely off the rails in its own universe, in its own craziness in and of itself. And I don't disparage it. That's not an insult to it. Yeah. They are just not in any way, shape, or form in a position to coalesce along with the DCEU, except for the multiverse thing.
Yeah. So, well, that's what I'm looking forward to, the multiverse, if it can explain everything in a cohesive storyline. You know, if it because you can understand what it is. You can understand alternate realities and different Batman and you know, and then you can open the door to, you know, bringing in a non-traditional Batman if you wanted to, a non-traditional Superman. I mean, it opens doors to alternate realities, and that's a cool concept. But as long as it's, as long as it doesn't feel as if the studios are kind of like forcing different concepts on you, as opposed to inviting you to enjoy the fact that there could be alternate realities, and it'll also help kind of settle in your brain what, you know, how do I reconcile that Val Kilmer, Michael Keaton, and George Clooney are all Batman?
Clooney.
You know,
Yeah.
like how, you know, and it can be done. I'm actually trying to think. That's why I'm stumbling on my words here. There was a storyline I just recently read from back in the 90s where
they have the Elseworlds, right?
Yeah.
They can, you know, they've been doing that for the longest time, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can be done. It's not there's precedence to it. It's comic books. You can do anything with them, but the problem is, like, in order to get us all on board with it, you have to show some kind of unity. You know, we will happily get on board with just about any kind of attempt, not even if it's good. We'll get on board with any kind of serious attempt to consolidate and to show us that there's you know, cohesion and meaning in all this stuff. To do it, you know, you guys against the wall, you know. And so now the Joker comes out, and Joker makes $1 billion. So now they're forced, because of money, they're forced to find a way for that to fit, even though they were adamant that it didn't.
Most watched thing on HBO Max. They did a report. There you go. All right, finally, it was 20 years ago Monday, maybe yesterday. Yeah, 20 years ago yesterday, X-Men debuted in theaters. It by way of 20th Century Fox's company. The new direction, directed by Bryan Singer, who's obviously in a little bit of trouble these days, is the most critically and commercially successful comic blockbuster without a Batman or Superman. Along with 1998's Blade, X-Men helped legitimize the genre as a bankable lane for Hollywood that could expand beyond the cartoonish sensibilities of older comic book films. We're going to actually have Tyler Mane on in the next couple weeks. I got that confirmation. I just don't know when. And he's going to talk about his role as Sabretooth on it. Where were you when X-Men came into theaters? Like, where did you watch it? Where did you see it? Give me a quick world building of where you were.
I think I saw that at the Palisades Mall. I think I saw that, you know, I don't remember it very, very vividly.
Did it strike?
I think a bunch of us saw it. No, I think it was a Wizard thing. I think we all went as a
Wizard
group.
For me. I didn't actually.
But I was
then.
I was there. I was there in 2000, and then I think a group of us definitely went to go see it. I don't know if it was a pre-screening or if it was a premiere, but I did see it with a bunch of Wizard people.
So
personals.
This is going to be hard for today's generation and even the generation 10 years earlier than us to fathom. Okay.
All right.
But comic book movies were not a thing back then.
It was a big deal. It was a really big, and there was a lot of skepticism. It was a big deal, and nothing but skepticism.
George Clooney effectively ruined comic book movies.
Blade
was a successful comic book movie, but it was so not a comic book movie and they did not hype it up as a comic book movie. Do you know what I mean? Like, they basically said this is a vampire movie based off a comic book. Because that was the marketing. They had to do the marketing. X-Men, there's no getting around it. X-Men are the X-Men. Wolverine is Wolverine. There's no escaping the comic book roots. I mean, even Batman Begins is another way of, you know, oh, by the way, it's a comic book movie. Unbreakable was, oh, by the way, this is a comic book movie. It was not, you know, you did not put that forefront in your marketing.
No.
It was always an afterthought. X-Men was a big risk. I was up in Lake George, New York with a bunch of friends, and it was pouring rain, and so we had nothing to do. And I'm like, hey, we'll go to the mall, and we saw X-Men playing, and I go, what the heck? I had very limited faith that they'd be able to pull it off. I had no expectations. I had lowered expectations. I had expectations it was going to be bad. And then, 5 minutes in, you see Hugh Jackman. I'm like, all right, I'm good. I'm sold, man. I'm sold. Still think very anticlimactic ending, which is a shame. I remember when.
Yeah, you will not be surprised to know that I was underwhelmed by the whole thing. I was because I was a super X-Men fan, and so okay. First of all, I went in there negative. I'm like, there's no way this movie worked. Secondly, the Hugh Jackman sequence, the first Wolverine sequence in the bar with Kitty Pryde. Oh no, sorry, Rogue. Was definitely an outlier. It definitely got. Oh wait, okay, this actually could work. This could be good. But then the typical thing that was happening in the late '90s, early 2000s is that we got Wolverine right. We don't need to get anything else right. So Cyclops. If you were a fan of Cyclops, you didn't like any of those movies.
Good thing no one was a fan of Cyclops.
There were fans of Cyclops. You are again.
Grant Morrison was.
You are generalizing again, which is your typical thing, and it's not true. There's a lot of fans. There were a lot of fans of Storm. Nope. And they even got Halle Berry to trick you into thinking that she was going to have something to do in the film.
So not only is she an Oscar-winning actress, but they never got her character right either. Like Storm in the comics is someone to be recognized.
The closest they came, ironically, was in the third one.
Yeah,
that's the closest they came to get, and that's the worst of all of them.
She's got white hair. She controls the weather. We nailed this.
Yeah, we got it. She's black. She's African. She's got white hair, and she controls the weather.
Yeah.
Then she had a really bad African accent.
Terrible.
In the first movie, and then it just vanished.
You know what happens when lightning? When toads get hit by lightning, the same as everything else.
Supposedly written by Joss Whedon. Supposedly that line was provided by Joss Whedon. Yeah. So I don't know what happened there.
Look, you said you had a bad week. He's been having a bad 2020.
Considering where we are, where the both of us are on the financial scale, my bad week is worse than his bad week.
No, I don't think so. I think so.
He'll recover. He could go to Belize, and just chill out for 10 years and then come back when everybody's over everything. But not me. I can go to Belize, but it won't be in style. No, actually, I can't because no one's traveling.
Yeah,
we're banned from going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. Like he can only stew in his personal misery. All right.
But yeah, X-Men. It was a big deal, and that was in 2000. That was a long time ago. We'll
probably do a retro review in the coming weeks because there won't be any content. So, why not? All right, coming up next, we welcome Simon Barry on, and he's going to help us review season 1 of Warrior Nun. Yeah, the guy who did it. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. Happy to welcome a rogue by all definition, someone who has been a veteran of TV and is at the helm. He's the creator at the helm of the successful Warrior Nun Netflix TV show. Mr. Simon Barry, how you doing, sir?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, thank you for joining us. We are really excited, and we kind of talked off air, but especially the gentleman in the sunglasses and the hat is a huge fan of Continuum, and so he's gonna pick your brain on that show a little bit. But we definitely want to start with the big news. Obviously, Warrior Nun, big success at Netflix. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the show, how is it doing a streaming show gauging the success level? Because I mean, with TV, you get the ratings like immediately. Netflix is always kind of like, yeah, lots of people watch this. And how is it being a creator for Netflix and in terms of gauging your own success?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting now. I think recently, because Netflix started promoting their top tens in all their territories, it's a little easier to go online and sort of map out which shows are doing well where in that top 10 list from territory to territory. So you do get a sense, at least, that people are watching the show. I mean, we can turn on our Netflix UI and see in our own country. I live in Canada, so I see that Warrior Nun is usually around number 2 here since it came out. And then you can go online and do that in other places, which is great because you do at least get a sense, okay, people are watching it. And then that plus the online social media chatter and just the amount of it. And you do get a sense that, what people, that they are watching it and that how they're reacting to it. I mean, it's not, you can't really get pure data.
Sure.
It's really just like a vibe of what's going on, but it's enough that you feel like, okay, so the show's out, it's being watched, people are asking questions, it's resonating. So in that sense, it's good. And that's really, for me, all that really matters. I'm not as fascinated with the specific numbers. In fact, I think, and I've done shows in the old format, which were, basically ratings breakdown, and it was, even then it was really, you were kind of a box within a box within a box based on your time slot and what network you were on and when the show aired. And so even then it was, you would get a number and you really didn't know what to do with it because you weren't sure if that was a death sentence or a renewal. But at least with Netflix, you have a sense of like, okay, we know we're in the top 10. That's good.
Yeah.
Whether that's enough to get renewed, I don't know. I mean, they're notorious for keeping their cards very close to their chest, and so I'm not expecting, an immediate answer anyway. I think they told me when we started the process, they said, we'll probably know in the first 15 minutes of the first day, based on the data of other shows we've put on, whether you're renewed or not. But we probably won't tell you for a couple of weeks at least. And I was like, what, you'll know in 15 minutes? And they was like, yeah, well, sadistic. Now we've done this so many times. We can look at the data in the first 15 minutes based on the shows we have renewed. And if we see the kind of spikes that we got on like Stranger Things or The Crown, we'll know that show is going to be in that category because it's giving an indicator early on of some kind of people are staying with the show. They're not stopping watching it after a certain amount of time. So I guess their metrics are finely tuned, really finely tuned. So they can do that, but they won't share that with me. I'm the sucker.
That's sadistic.
It is. It's rough for sure. But I think we're lucky that we're in the top 10, so we can get at least that feedback. If we were 11, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know. We could be 50 or 12, and you wouldn't know. And that would make me crazy, I think. Yeah,
we actually reported that on last week's show too. I mean, it was trending in the top 1 or 2. I think when I caught it, it was there. So we knew we were excited.
We've got Unsolved Mysteries apparently is like our competition, which in my mind it's like, well, we're the number 1 drama, so that's all that really.
That's all that matters.
I'm not competing with Unsolved Mysteries.
I mean, it's not like they brought Robert Stack back from the dead either.
No, but also your stuff has a resolution, unlike most of the Unsolved Mysteries.
Those are unsolved. They're unsolved. Know what they're getting into with that.
Although we are being beaten up a bit for not having a full resolution at the end of season 1, so it's a fair comparison in that.
There is the promise of
we are a bit of an unsolved mystery at the end of season 1 too.
We're definitely going to get into that ending because that is the big talk on social media, and people really want to dive in. And look, we've given tension out there. We've given you 2 weeks to watch the show at this point, so this is on you now. If there's spoilers,
hit pause and finish the show.
Yeah. But before we even get into that, what drew you to this particular comic? I mean, we are industry veterans. We've been in the comic industry for a long time, but even, it's such an obscure comic book. Yeah. I guess it's technically the longest running indie since it's been going since '95 or something like that, I think. But quite frankly, it's not something that's on a lot of people in the industries know. Like, how did you stumble across it, and how
It
did you
wasn't on my radar at all. It was really a mutual friend. I have a friend who's a movie producer named Dean English. I've known him since I was in college. He lives in France. He makes independent films, and he knew about it, and he had made a deal to do an independent feature based on Warrior Nun. And he was essentially in the development process of that. It had been going on for several years, I think, before he called me. And it was really, from when he came to me with it, it was more like a favor. He was like, we're at this point in the script where we can't get any further. We're not happy with what we have. We need some outside help. So as a favor, actually, it wasn't even a job. It was like just an old friend saying, can you help? I said, sure, I'll look at it and I'll give you whatever thoughts I have. And if I think I can help, I'll squeeze it in. So I read it, and I was immediately intrigued with kind of the audacity of the premise and the world that the Warrior Nuns existed in. And I knew also that in this marketplace, being able to grasp a really big idea really quickly that isn't like anything else is really important at the buying level. You know, like I pitch a lot, and I know that I get feedback from those pitches where people are saying, you know, we want something that is challenging at the same time, you know, it has a built-in DNA that makes it work, you know, and it's its own world. And my company, my production company, we're looking for genre that is not what you expect. We love that genre is kind of like a gateway drug to smart, intelligent, socially relevant thematic storytelling. But because, and I'm a nerd, I know that you can be tricked in a way into that process by looking at something and thinking it's A, and then you get A, B, C, D, and E all the way through. And I really like shows that do that. I tried to do that with Continuum, which was to kind of hook you on the idea of like, oh, it's a time travel show, but it's not really a time travel show. It's really about the gray area of right and wrong in politics. And so with Warrior Nun, I just saw an opportunity to do the same thing, really, which is like, here's something visceral. It's challenging right out of the gate. It's two words that don't belong together. But we could tell a story that kind of defied the expectation of what the title is and the poster. And that way we could make the show we wanted to make, which could be about female empowerment, patriarchy, Catholic Church, conspiracy theories, heaven and hell, demons and angels, all this fun stuff that's very fertile and good for storytelling, and yet be, you know, kind of, I think, a little deceptive in what you thought you were going to get. So that was apparent to me on the feature side. And then I told my friend Dean, I was like, I don't think you can do this as a film. It's too much. There's like, you've got a 10-pound bag and 50 pounds of mythology. Would you consider television? And he said, yeah. And it was sort of helping myself because that's what I do. So I said,
by the way, I've done television before.
Yeah, I've done. I've done movies, but not like to the degree that I've done TV. So he was very open-minded to that, and so I my company did a deal with him so that we could basically get the rights to shop them from the movie producer, and the first place we went was Netflix, and I think they saw immediately the same potential I'd seen. They were like, oh, that title, that's gonna be visible in a way that people will go, what is that? I want to know what that is. And then we could just sort of unpeel the onion in a way that makes Netflix shows kind of tick, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really that for me was how I got into it. It was really presented to me as an opportunity that started as a movie and ended up as a TV show.
Two-part question. How close were you to the biblical side of the mythology? Like, is it something that kind of drew you in as well? And the other side of it is, how close to the comic book side are you sticking?
It's kind of the same answer. I mean, we drew from the comic books world, which was really fascinating because it had these stakes, heaven and hell, demons and angels, good and evil. Yet it had this audacious approach to it, and it was a little bit in your face and a little bit punk rock, heavy metal. And so we thought, well, we can't do the punk rock heavy metal version on Netflix, but we can use the same stakes of heaven and hell, demons and angels, and sort of biblical prophecy and Christian mythology in a way that helps the show feel important, even though it's a little wacky, it's a little bit out there. So how do you ground it in something that is like, oh, this might be about the end of the world, but we're gonna rely on what everyone already believes about the devil and God and angels and demons, and use that as our kind of reference point, which really, for me, as someone who writes sci-fi and genre, it's great when you have a mythology that everyone already knows. Yeah. It's like if I can do a Star Wars show tomorrow, I don't have to explain that universe, right? Everyone knows that universe. And it's the same with biblical mythology. Everyone, for the most part, understands the stakes of heaven and hell and good and evil, the God and the devil. So that, for me, was really the only part of it we really wanted to use, and that's kind of how we set the stakes of the show up, which is very similar to the book. Ben Dunn's book really is dealing with those stakes on a regular basis, and it's really about those women in those situations who are fighting for humanity. Yeah.
It's funny too, because I think the easy comparison is Buffy, and there are definitely, I don't even know if you call it homages, because it's a very well known. It's kind of like what you said. It's a well known genre, right? So I mean, there's a lot of tipping the cap, but in a subtle way, not in an overt way. But unlike Buffy, this thing skips right to, I feel like, what the message of that show was by the end of it. Is that a conscious decision to do that, or is that how it kind of just unfolded over the first?
No, it just unfolded. I mean, we're in a room of nerd writers. Everyone knows Buffy. Yeah. Everyone's familiar with it. It's hard to avoid it. But we were also working with our own mythology that was that was accelerated in a way with the Halo mythology and the demons already being among us in a way that was visceral and an immediate threat. And the idea that the church, the Catholic Church and the Vatican and the conspiracies around that were also part of our mythology in a big way. That kind of helped us separate ourselves, because we were dealing with political structures and also patriarchy within the framework of the Vatican, and nuns, which are a sect unto themselves and have a culture unto themselves and are a subculture. So it was easy to make that comparison. And frankly, I don't mind the comparisons. I mean, if I'm going to be compared to anything on TV in this genre, that's the show you want to be, compared to, and hopefully is successful. But, it wasn't on our mind. We didn't bring it up a lot. It was definitely, it looms large only because of its cultural impact, in this space. So, but we weren't honestly beating ourselves up about it. If we happened to cover territory, it was no big deal. Plus, it's been a long time since Buffy was on. There's a whole new audience.
It's really true. Michael. I mean, really. There's.
Our cast weren't even really that aware of Buffy.
Really?
They're in their 20s, early 20s.
Oh, now I feel old.
Imagine how I feel.
Holy cow. I was going to ask about the cast too. I think the cast is fantastic. I think Alba is fantastic. Where did you find her, and what was that process like?
Well, from the beginning, we knew we wanted to do kind of a cast of newcomers. And because we were shooting in Europe, we knew we had a talent pool at our disposal that was going to be, in conjunction with the North American talent pool, which we could find maybe some new faces, new names. And so Alba was a part of that process early on. We knew we had to basically win the lottery with Ava's part, and Alba came to us through our UK casting mechanism, which was Suzanne Smith. She's based in London. She had been to a talent showcase in Ireland where Alba had been featured via her reps from Portugal. And then we saw that tape as one of hundreds and hundreds that were kind of recorded and sent through. And then we asked for an audition, which she did, and she was great. And I was immediately sold. And then Netflix said, can we see her do more? A couple more other scenes. So we had her read a few other scenes, and she self-taped those, sent them in, and then Netflix was like, okay, we see what you see now. Let's pull the trigger. And then the rest of the cast came together, from all parts of Europe. We have casts from, Christina's from England. Lorena is from Colombia, but she was in England at the time. And Toya's from Chicago. And Olivia is in Spain, so she's one of our Spanish cast. through the Spanish casting director. So it was like everyone was contributing. LA, Spain, London. We were finding a lot of really talented people, and it was really just, you know, filtering it down to the names that sort of everyone agreed on, you know, whether it was myself or Jet Wilkinson, who was directing the pilot episode, and Netflix. We sort of all wanted to challenge each other to do better, find the, you know, the next make stars, you know, which is great. It's exciting.
Well, that's
terrifying and exciting.
That's what it felt like, though, too. I mean, it really felt like you were discovering, you know, talent. And that's, I mean, that's a great thing, but it's also got to be nerve-wracking on your part as well, too, to not.
And we never met any of them. We had no live casting because we were casting all over the world. We had no reads. So everything was on tape. And a lot of it was actually self-tapes, you know, more than I've ever seen, because because we were dealing with Germany, France, Italy, England, Ireland, the US, Australia. It just didn't make sense to do like traditional casting. So we just basically said, all right, let's throw caution to the wind, have people do self-tapes. And people were super creative in their self-taping. Some of them did great work, and it was wonderful, actually, a great process in terms of seeing how much talent is out there, you know.
It's also got to be scary, though, too, from a sense of, again, the renewal standpoint, too, right? I mean, like, you know, if you have the new Zac Efron thing, well, chances are you're going to get a season 2, like, greenlit, like, instantaneously. Combination of comic book that's very obscure, so it's not a fan base driven thing. Brand new young cast. I mean, you know,
Netflix really at the end is the reason the show gets pushed. They are the machinery. And I think when Netflix gets behind a show, people hear about it, and they, you know, I think they like the show. They liked it early on, so that we were able to use their strength as a global presence to kind of get the word out. And they cut an amazing trailer. Their marketing department has been super, and, you know, really supportive. So I've never worked with Netflix before directly. This is my first time, so I can't compare this process to anything else prior with them. But I will say that it's, from a point of view of just the marketing group, it's been very smooth and really satisfying. And obviously they do a great job because the word gets out and people show up.
Yeah.
And without any kind of traditional advertising in newspapers or billboards yet or anything like that, they're really doing their work with, I think, their subscriber base, you know?
Yeah. You know, behind the scenes at Rogue, I mean, we saw the trailer and we're like, wow, you know, not even just our affiliation of knowing you and whatnot, just seeing the trailer, we're like, that looks pretty damn cool. And the first 15 minutes, I mean, I got to compliment you too, because as a writer, it's really difficult to get people like sucked in immediately. First 15 minutes, hard. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, I'm sold. Like, where does this go? Like, and but that's not, I mean, it's a skill, because it doesn't come off. It's not easy to do that, to do a pilot episode, to do the first 15 minutes and have someone, you know, have it explained. I mean, that's great work.
That happens.
I mean,
there's so much that takes place, you know, and the transference of powers to one character to the next. And you know, after someone has died, you know, there's a ton of stuff that gets transferred really, or conveyed really fast in that time.
So, it's hard. Pilots are hard. I've written many of them. Most of them are unproduced, and for a reason, because they are this very, very challenging way to do too many things too quickly. And if you don't find kind of the right pathway and set the right tone and have all of the elements, but honestly, you know, it starts on the page, of course, but then you have to have all the other elements that make your brain just get, you know, excited in the right way when you watch. And that's casting, it's lighting, it's set design, costumes, everything has to work, because as soon as you see a bump, it throws you off, you're out, you know. And I think that having a great team is the only way to really make that happen.
What was the decision behind the first person narrative too? That's also not often used, really.
Yeah, truth is that came from Netflix early on in the scripting stage, because they were a little worried, I think, about the amount of information that was going to have to come out, how quickly it was going to come out. Getting to know Ava's voice, because she was such a pinball in that first episode. Yeah. So at first we were
literally getting hit by the truck.
I don't know, voiceover, you know, it's tricky. We struggled a lot with it. We tried a lot of things, and we ended up doing a lot more voiceover in the scripts to sort of make it consistent. But when Alba showed up and we realized how much she just showed what we were saying with her performance, we started cutting it out. And eventually what was supposed to be something that was going to run through the whole show ended up only really being in the first episode and a little bit in the second. And then it's kind of gone. Yeah. And then that really
then becomes like a stream of consciousness thing as you proceed forward.
We got to know her so fast. I think we just didn't need it in the way we thought we were going to need it. Yeah. And I think also as a device, it just wasn't doing anything extra. It was just being there and not really adding value. So I was glad to use it, to need it. And obviously I think it worked in the pilot to a degree that people get to know her faster. Yeah. I'm not personally 100% a fan of voiceover unless it's adding value in a way. And so for me as a writer, it was like, how do I write this so I'm not just repeating what's being shown? You know, I want it to be an addition that you would normally not get, you know, through traditional performance. So I think for me, it was like really hard to do that as a writer and to make it work. But in the end, in production and in post-production, we found a nice balance and that I'm happy with.
Very cool. All right. In addition to Warrior Nun, which is on Netflix, you know, we are fanboys of many, many things. And my partner in crime over here is a huge Continuum fan. So I'm gonna toss the ping pong over to him for a little bit because he's got a bunch of questions for you. Yeah, I mean maybe like 2, but still, like you know,
there'll be long-winded answers. So it's simple questions, but there'll be more.
There you go.
As usual. So thank you very much again for Continuum, for Warrior Nun and Continuum. The Warrior Nun being a fresh experience of mine, but Continuum, I think I discovered it kind of accidentally on the Sci-Fi Channel because I'm in the New York area, and it was I found the first season to be a really solid piece of science fiction, but your second season really takes the time travel ball and runs with it, with all the different aspects and the different pitfalls of what traveling through time can. So,
I thought you said the answers were going to be long-winded.
Was that too long a question? Back
no, it's not.
I was.
You know, ironically, though, this is the best part because he yells at me for asking very, very long questions.
You are now effectively making the question longer, though.
I know. I know.
So okay, so was Continuum by design? Did you have all the years planned out as you went into it?
Yeah, we had a rough roadmap of a series of events that could but this is before we had a cast. This is before we knew what the show was. And so things changed when the show starts to reveal its strengths and whatnot, and the characters pop, and storylines that you thought would work don't work, and other storylines do. So yeah, I mean, in the first season, in the early part of the writing room, we had a kind of a general discussion about, let's think about where the show is going so we know we're writing to something that was, you know, and it was always going to be that Kira's journey was going to be one of getting back to the world that she'd left behind, but that it was going to be a better world. And the consequences of that, you know, are deep. And so we knew that we needed to get her there, but we realized also that the fun part of the show was not going to be the race to the end. It was going to be the juicy undercurrent of the backstories and her going from essentially a fascist to a freedom fighter. You know, she becomes, you know, basically what Liberate wants to do. And that for us, we knew early on was like, this is the meat and potatoes of the show. Mm-hmm. It's this journey of character discovery, self-discovery, and change. How can we expand that in a way that is not just a good story about a woman fighting for something, but also about all the fun parts of time travel and the you know, the juicy stuff, the timey-wimey stuff. And because we were in a very low-budget show by American standards, especially on Sci-Fi, we had to sort of back into character as our strength instead of the big action and the big kind of special effects driven stuff. So it forced us in a good way, I think, to sort of lean into these character relationships and draw them out in a way that was better I thought was made for a better show than something that was just plot, get back
Right.
and fix the future. So, I mean, it was, you always like to think you have a plan, and we did like to think we had a plan, but the plan went sideways,
Yeah.
and it's like a road trip. You're going to drive from New York to LA, and you think you're going to stay on the freeways, but you end up going off on these side trips to
Right.
other states and other towns, and eventually you end up in LA, but it might take you a totally different route, and it takes you a different amount of time. And that's kind of what Continuum was. We thought, oh yeah, we're just going to go straight to LA. We just took a totally different route to get there than we thought we were. So it's a kind of hard question to answer, because we said we sort of had a plan, but we didn't stick to it.
Those are always the best experiences, right?
Yeah, and I think most TV shows have to do that, because you have to be able to adjust on the fly. You can't just stick to your guns and go, hey, this is how it's going to be season after season, because you don't even know what the show is until you've shot the first season. You have no idea.
Well, I think how Continuum stands out above and beyond like a lot of the science fiction, television science fiction, especially from actually just a couple of years ago, but it feels like such a long time ago in comparison to the now times, is that the characters were pretty outstanding. They were very three-dimensional, very fleshed out. Especially the Liberate characters, who all kind of had archetypical like profiles, and then eventually revealed themselves to be much larger, much more grander and much more nuanced. You had a kind of a foreshortened fourth season.
Yeah.
Was that the plan, or was that?
No. We thought we were canceled after season 3, and it was really just the fan pushback on the Canadian broadcaster, who that really got us our 4th season. But the Canadian broadcaster who controlled the show, they weren't prepared to finance the entire season, and Sci-Fi was just acquiring the show. They weren't actually the producing network. They just paid a fee. So they didn't have a stake in the decision making as much as the Canadian broadcaster did. So the Canadian broadcaster said, well, if we've heard the fans are pissed if we don't give them another season, but we're not prepared to invest in a full season, so we'll give you this half season to wrap it up. So no, we would not have done what we did if we had a proper amount of time. But it was better than just the show ending at the end of season 3 and flatline and nothing. So for us as a writing team, we all looked at each other and said, okay, it's going to be weird, but how can we make how weird it is work in a way that feels somewhat organic, even though it's not going to be our show, because our show tended to drive slowly and sort of enjoy the scenery. Yeah. And the final season really needed to like build to something where we got her home in a way that had stakes, and it just forced us kind of into a plot heavy structure and less character structure. And then that's not what our show was. Our show was really driven by, like you said, like great characters and great character reveals and relationships. And so the 4th season was a real hard high wire act to try and balance those things that I knew that the audience loved and wanted resolved, and at the same time have a storyline that drove to the end zone in a way that we were like not going back and forth, that we had like one clear drive. And we of course it would have been better to have another 4 episodes or something just to stretch it out. But you work with what you're given, and I don't make these as showrunner. No showrunner makes these decisions to cut a season short or cancel a show. That's not what we do.
Right. But you did make a decision in Warrior Nun to end on a cliffhanger and and it got people talking. Talk to us about, we'll keep it spoiler free as much as possible, but feel free again, people, this is on you. 2 weeks.
Well, anyone who watches Netflix and watches Netflix shows like this knows that this is not unique. This is by design. Netflix knows that their audience is passionate and loyal, and so I guess they feel like this is something that is energizes the fan base and gets them talking about stuff and speculating. And I guess keeps the conversation going in the time it takes between seasons. So yeah, I mean, we had been told early on that this was kind of the way they like to do it, and not that this is unusual in television. A lot of genre shows tend to build to a cliffhanger.
Sure.
It's not unusual. It's more or less it's like how you do it in a way.
Yeah.
And we wanted to try and do two things. We wanted a big reveal so that we had answers to questions, and then we wanted to tee up new questions that would propel what we had thought about season 2 would be, and sort of tee up season 2. So yeah, it's abrupt. And it's abrupt because it's in the middle of an action sequence.
Yeah.
That's going sideways, to be fair. It's not like, I mean, a lot of the critics have said, well, how could you end in the middle of a fight? And I was like, the fight was over. Like, they lost. There was this was like, it was done. I don't think you realize that they're fucked. I mean, sorry. But that's kind of it. There is no, like, there wasn't like a third act to that scene that was, that's going to happen. So I think, but I know that, and the audience doesn't. So it can manifest in a way that you don't intend, which I think it does a little bit. But at the same time, people are super hungry for season 2, which Netflix wants, which I want. So everybody, I think, understands.
So you can break the news right now. It's season 2's on, and we're good. We're good, right?
I wish I could.
You got the data?
Yeah, I wish I could. I mean, if I was running Netflix and I looked at the numbers, I'd be like, hell yeah. I mean, no brainer, right?
Those sneaky bees. Look at them, though. Keep it. They're like 15 minutes. They're like, yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, they have to keep everybody sweating.
Simon, we don't know. We just don't know yet.
I love them anyway. I know. I get there. I get that they're trying to do. I feel for them.
Well, when season 2 is officially announced and you're ready to air it, we want you definitely to come back on. We really appreciate your time and really appreciate the great work that you've done. So thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, and thanks, Hassan. Appreciate your questions too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Get thanked very often. I very
and
rarely
your Continuum love.
I very rarely thank him, so it's good. It's good to get awesome. When we come back, we will go spinning the racks. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. I want to thank Simon Barry for joining us, talking about Warrior Nun. It looks, again, like I think there will be a season 2. It seems like all signs point to that, even though, as he pointed out, Netflix doesn't let him know that right away. Shame on you.
No, yeah.
I mean, it's one thing not to like.
It trended well, though. It was trending very well when it dropped. So
yeah. And I still stand by, too. The first 15 minutes, look, pilot episodes are hard. The first 15 minutes, definitely had me hooked. The world building, the world around it is very good. We didn't mention it, but Shotgun Mary. Was it?
She's fantastic.
Yeah, she really, really is. I think Toya Turner is her name.
Yeah. And
Alba Baptista, she's really good, too. I think it does a really nice job. When the two of them, that's when it picks up for me, is midway through the season. When
they finally collide, when they when they're dealing with each other.
And they're not just chasing each other. Like, that's when things started really picking up. And obviously the twist is something that I didn't see coming, but you knew something was coming. So you were expecting.
So it couldn't have been as, because well, there was a couple of twists, as a matter of fact. So when it starts to unfold, you kind of know instinctively that there's going to be more to it than what they're showing you. So obviously, but it was good. It's a very, very good show, very solid. Hopefully it'll get some, it'll have some traction on Netflix, and
it did. Yeah, it definitely
get a couple of seasons.
It definitely did. So
they've definitely got more story to tell. There's more to be told.
They better have a season 2, or else, I mean,
especially at the ending. But okay.
Yeah. We are big fanboys of comics and graphic novels, and every week we like to bring you the inside info on the source material that will make its way onto the large and small screen. We call this segment Spinning the Racks.
Spin the rack, spin that rack.
We asked, you delivered. A couple episodes ago, we were talking about the homemade comics we made as a kid, and I reached out to our audience. And I said, send us some stuff. And you did. Friend and frequent streamer of the show, Dave Rosenberg, sent in his homemade comics when he was a kid. He actually, not only did he send it in, but he gave a very detailed explanation of all of them. So we're going to turn this on. Here we go. So this is pretty cool, first of all, that he sent it in. But he gave like I said, he gave a detailed description of not just the characters, but what he was actually thinking when he did it. So Brawler and Flack. We've got.
I like that he named them. I mean that he has their names hovering above them. So
yeah. No, that's definitely a good thing. Oop, nope, spinning it around. Whee, there it goes.
Oh my God.
Well, you know, what are you going to do? I mean, there's only so much we can do here. And so Brawler and Flack is good. Here's Fos, Plasma, and Haze.
Same artist?
Yes, Steeler,
so
Shockwave,
he had his own
Alloy.
universe.
Yeah, no, he was pretty epic back then. So he said I did these drawings
prolific
before Youngblood hit the shelves, so I was probably 14. I had an issue of Comic Scene with an article previewing the series, so I wanted to create my own original team of superheroes. Up to this point, any drawing I did was cartoony, influenced by Mad and Cracked magazine. I never really attempted to draw realistic people because I couldn't then. So this was my first time trying to draw people. All these characters were inspired by, i.e. ripoffs, bits and pieces from Youngblood, G.I. Joe, Silverhawks, Marvel, DC.
You can see all the influence. I see.
Oh yeah, no, you absolutely. There's no question about it. So then there's a little further down when he starts talking about how he got into Jim Lee a little bit here. Yeah, all the way up.
It's like the Thing. It's like the Thing. It looks like Martian Manhunter.
Here we go. So this. Sorry, it was a little out of order. The Shockwave, Silverbolt, Windcharger. This is his Jim Lee phase right here. I think everyone back then had a Jim Lee phase, though. I don't.
Oh yeah.
Anything,
you can't really you can't come up in that era and not go through a Jim Lee phase.
Right. I mean, it's impossible.
No.
Lastly, though, this is his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles knockoff. You ready?
Okay.
The Kung Fu Cold Bloods.
Those are awesome.
So here's the funny thing.
And that name, he could make that name work today. Right now, that name could work. I'm gonna do something even better, and I'm gonna trademark it. Copyright Mike Dolce. Kung Fu Code Red. Code Red. Kung Fu Code Red.
Oh, is that not the best name? I'm making the series, Dave. You inspired us. You will not get it co-created.
No,
you will not have Brian, Robert,
there will be
Chuck,
no residuals.
Sly, Mike, and Arnold as the characters. Kung Fu Code Red.
Code Red. It's done.
I mean,
we're already rich. We've already
that not like the name of a
our stock just shot up just now.
I'm gonna go reserve the domain name like right now. I'm serious. I'm gonna. Yeah.
I believe you. I'm
gonna do it.
I'm working on sketches of my own right now. Just I'll do alternate covers.
But we'll do it. Send us in your homemade comics as a kid.
Please, more of that, please.
We were actually very kind. We didn't rip into these. He was expecting us to rip into him. He's like, I can't wait to hear what you guys rip into him. But how can you rip into that?
You don't rip into people's art. You know that comes. That's all straight from the heart. You know that's all. I mean, it's rippy, a little, little theft going on there. But
this is something I'll also say, right? I think we all came up with a character called Shockwave because I had one too.
Oh yes, there was a Shockwave in every household.
He had one called Primus. I thought that was pretty cool. That was a good band.
Yes, it is. Still a good band.
And then Stealth. Yeah, I had a Stealth also. Now I will tell you that the one character name I thought was pretty cool, Brimstone. Never thought about that for a fire character.
Oh, I've had a.
That's pretty original right there, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hotspot. He was before his time. No internet then.
Yes, that's true. Without the internet, it was hard to come up with these names. It was very. especially being kids, we didn't realize, like, we didn't understand the connotation of most of those terms.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, when you're a kid, names are like the easiest thing. I feel like I felt like I was just able.
No, but I mean, there's like, say like G.I. Joe, right? When you're a kid, you don't know what Flint means. You don't know why they named a character Flint or Clutch. Why did they name this character? He drives cars. They called him Clutch. What does that have to do with driving cars? When you're a kid, you don't know these things. You don't understand the connotation. So it's a little harder to name things when you're young.
Yeah.
You don't.
No, I'm saying it's easier when you're younger. It's easier to name when you're younger.
Well, it's easier, but you come up with these really on the nose names.
Yeah, I had like Matchhead, and he literally looked like a match. So, I mean, I guess they're not all.
I'm not even going to tell you what now.
They're not all Kung Fu Cold Red.
No, and that's genius.
I know.
We're doing a Kickstarter next week. Next week, Kung Fu Cold Red.
Send in your art. We'll steal it, turn it into something else.
Yeah.
That's
the format. That's exactly what's going to happen.
MikeBooks.com, MikeBooks.com. If you want to catch up on the Sire, there is a promotion on Comixology right now. So you can go to the indie special or go to SireStudiosInc.com/
And you're cooking up the next iteration of Sire, right? The next volume.
Volume
Sire,
3,
right?
yes. Volume 3, That's right. I'm drawing. It's good. It feels good to draw. I just don't want to pay an artist to do it. No, I'm taking it as a personal challenge because I only drew like a few pages of the last volume, and I was like, no, let's get out there. Look, whatever works, right? Go to SireStudiosInc.com/sale, and it'll direct you over to the Comixology site where you can download for like, digital downloads of the first 2 volumes at ridiculously low prices. That's my shameless plug of the day. Next week, the Bacon Brothers. We got bacon. We don't have content, but we got bacon. We got the Bacon Brothers returning for a third tour.
There's plenty of music, though. There's music. Music is happening all over the place. Music is still booming. So
third tour of duty on our show, and we will also be reviewing Old Guard. See you guys next week. Rogue Wave.